outsourcing it and not having more time to focus on doing that side of it, like contacting those companies and stuff.
Okay, people, hope you haven't all been too battered by the winds and the rain. Poker tip, you're going to tell us what winds, what rain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Well,
no.
I thought it was quite good. My
I took
insurance-
at the lake a little bit.
Yeah.
Sunny Bight, I lived,
Yeah, they-
just trees down.
Right.
But only Sunny Bight because it was an easterly, wasn't it, I think?
Yes, and that was the difference.
Mm.
For something.
My insurance company emailed me a consumer satisfaction survey and I was like, you haven't even been to my house yet.
Aha.
Did
We've
you-
got a very rumpety old veranda that somebody's put on the front of our place, our roof, which is quite good. And it's made out of that old style of plastic roofing that goes very brittle, you
Yeah.
know, and it's got big raw nails in it. And every time we get something like that, I say to my wife, well, you say you're right to that roof. But it never goes.
It doesn't go.
No, the more it blows.
And you want it to go, you get it replaced.
Now, we've our other two class members are at another meeting that I know about, so I think we're about it. So, because of that. So, it's a long time ago that we were doing this, wasn't it? So, the starting point is that handout which you probably have got, and if you haven't, I can give you another copy, the one that's got segmentation, targeting and positioning on it. Now, well towards the back, there's another set of PowerPoints that are positioning. The other way around, targeting and positioning. So we start here. Now, I'm sorry I'm talking from my nose, I've got a dose of something. Hope my voice holds out. I'll put the faith in Chinese cough drops. The fundamentals seem to work quite well. Now, we need to... Wait a minute, sorry. The targeting and position part of this discussion follows on from the segmentation bit. So 3-stage process: segmentation, targeting and positioning. So just to remind us, I'll go back in your previous handout and remind you what happens here. We segment a market, and there are various dozens of things to think about for segmentation, and hopefully you will remember that we had these so-called segmentation variables. Demographic, to do with people. Geographic, to deal with where people are. And then there were the third big one was the lifestyle stuff.
Psychographic.
Psychographic. When we have had a crack at defining a potential market for ourselves on the basis of some of these segmentation variables, we then look to build a profile which very often has things from each variable or more than one variable. So in the previous session we talked about BMW had defined market segment for potential buyers, which is really a profile based on personality and attitude characteristics. So these were the things that made up the profile they developed. Young professionals, So that's demographic, because it talks about their jobs, it talks about their age. High earning potential is still demographic, because it talks in effect about income. And then we're into lifestyles and to some extent attitudes and that sort of thing. So these become the psychographic ones. So BMW said they were looking for people with active lifestyles, who were independent thinkers, quite how you find them I don't know, and who desired a brand that reflected their own performance. So this was when all the banking types and accounting types and whatnot in Auckland were going for their BMWs. So the key point is, you come out of talking about these segments, ideally organising yourself a profile made up of usually more than one of these segments. So that profile coming out of the segments, and possibly more than one profile you might be having something to do with, excuse me. The profile starts talking about targeting. So the profiles are your target. And then we move on to positioning. Now positioning is having identified your market profiles, you then look at differentiation from competitive offerings. So positioning means you position yourself compared with competitors. So the jargon, the positioning, the act of designing the company's offering an image to occupy a distinctive place in the mind of the target market. So positioning is all about establishing or trying to establish your competitive advantage. Something that sorts you out compared with your competition. And a couple of little jargony terms that go with that lead you to look at points of difference, PODs, and points of parity, POPs. Points of difference, ways in which your offering is different than competitors, and points of parity is where your offering is similar to competitors. So where points of parity become important is where organisations recognise that there's not much they can do about what they are offering physically. Now, a few obvious examples. The petrol bowsers are all offering petrol. They try from every now and then to suggest in some way their petrol is better than the other petrol because they put something in it. Now we don't see so much of that now, but I can remember a time when Caltex had tetron in it, which is a substance a little bit higher on the so-called chemistry periodic table than petrol. So they try to make you think you're getting better petrol. And Shell had a thing called methyl benzene and so on. But that's pretty much disappeared now. So now what they try and do is sort it out either on the basis of price, sort of no frills type of price. It's stand out in the rain and fill your own car, or perhaps on some form of service. Now the Z outfit, I think, promote the fact now that they'll come out and fluff around your car during the hours of 8 and 5, I think it is, or something like that. And they don't quite offer to wash your windscreen, but they get close. And Challenge down here do a bit of it every now and then, but they're fairly erratic. Mobile, on the other hand, as far as I can see, tend to generally be about a cent a litre lower, so they are sort of competitive pricing. And it's really the same with banks. If you look around the banks are desperately trying to make the money they want to lend you look a bit different for some reason. They package it up, they do all sorts of things. But by and large, they buy money and they sell money to banks, and not a hang of a lot they can do about changing the money. Every now and then, I mean, I don't know, there must be dozens of different Visa cards, but they're still all Visa cards.
Sorry,
So
one of the
good.
ways of they're trying to get their competitive advantages, say the Visa card,
Yes.
bonus points, or
Yes.
that it's
Yes, that's right.
Visa hot points or.
And
Bands,
the
yeah,
outfits
do
that they got,
flybys
the
as well.
flybys and the airpoints,
And introduce flybys.
they keep on trying, don't they?
Yeah.
I recall an occasion in my youth when I was travelling overseas quite a lot. I had 4 credit cards, because in those days some countries it was pretty hard to use them. Like Japan, you could use diners, but they never had much in the way of American Expresses and things like that. So basically I had 4 in my pocket. And I thought I was pretty crash hot in those days, because I had a gold American Express, you know. Anyway, cut a long story short, I got on the plane in Christchurch and was sitting in the plane thinking, my God, I haven't got any more trousers. I needed a second pair of trousers. I've left them at home. So I knew the Sydney airport was pretty close to the city. So I got a cab and I said, can you take me somewhere that's open, because it was getting pretty late, where I can get a pair of trousers? Well, it happened to be in this King's Cross area, you know, where all the shenanigans go on. But anyhow, so he ended up there. Yes, he had some trousers. Yes, they fitted. Yes, I was very pleased. So I was being all a bit silly, really, but chatty. I said, lay down the credit cards, and I said, which one do you want? I suppose you want the gold card, do you? And he said, like hell, the commission rate on that's much higher. And you see, here's me thinking I could big note with the gold card. In actual fact, it was most unattractive to the retailer. Because of, and if you go around now, I don't know about no particular, but if you go around now, sometimes you'll see shops won't take American Express
No, we don't.
diners because they've got a whacking great
Yeah.
commission on
Yeah.
them.
We don't take, we used to,
Yeah,
no, we took it off.
Yeah.
And everyone that has an Amex
yeah,
has another card.
yes,
Yes.
because they
Neither of us
got,
to say because we don't have
Yeah.
don't take an
Yeah.
Amex.
I can't actually see I can't see too many advantage on an Amex now, because the visas in particular can be used anywhere now. You don't have any trouble using
Visa and MasterCard is so much more accepted.
Yes, yes. Your MasterCard's a bit lower down the sort
Yeah.
of tree, but anyway,
So you've got to have both though, because Ticketek do Visa pre-sales and MasterCard pre-sales, and to get the best deal, you've got to have both.
that's right. I walked into Challenge one night, like I have, and he said, have you got a gold card? And I'd given him an FBOS card, and I said, yeah, I think so. So why do you want that? And I handed over, I've got, the Visa card was a gold one. So I said, well, do you want that? What's wrong with the FBOS? Wouldn't that be better? He said, no, I'm not talking about that gold card. And he meant the superannuation.
Oh,
Because they have a...
like grey power.
yeah, they have a
Discount
discount
gold.
with it.
Well, they're 8 cents. That's a pretty good discount,
Yeah.
that. How long they'll keep doing that?
Not enough old people still driving. License taken.
Maybe that's why they do it. I don't know, it's not going to last forever.
But you can get a super gold card from 55,
Can you?
apparently.
My mum's
You have
not
to pay for
retirement
it.
age, but my dad gets a pension, so mum gets one automatically because she's
Right,
a
but
staff.
yeah, that's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I probably told you this, but I wanted to go from London down to Plymouth in the train. That's pretty expensive, you know. The English railway fares are ghastly complicated. So I thought I'd go to a real person rather than a machine. So I went to yours. And sure enough, it was a good thing I did, because there's some complicated fare that gave me a lot better price, and I still don't understand it. And the first class fare was only £4 more, £4 more than the standing class. I said, does this strike you as silly? Because I'm going to get 2 free meals, aren't I, on that? Yes. I said, and it's only $4. It strikes me as silly. He said, oh, don't knock it, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, so we started the transaction, and he said to me, I hope you don't mind me asking you a rude question. And I said, oh yeah, go on. And he said, do you happen to be 60? And I said, that's a compliment, not a question. Anyhow, you get a senior rail card there, it takes a third off. That flaming fare was getting towards the thick end of £300. So you take a third of that off and you're saving £100.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Right. Now, one of the little tools they use for this game is so-called perceptual mapping. So on your handout, we'll do a little one of these so that you can see how they work. The next page over from the PowerPoint printout. Have you found it? Perceptual mapping, deciding what image to project. So what you do is you make up a chart like this, and the first thing you do is under that heading attributes down the side, you write in the attributes that you want or that you could be competitive with. And you preferably rank them from top to bottom. Then you plot with those A's, B's, C's, D's and E's where you think you are located and your competitors are located. You do that across the horizontal scale. So let me try and explain how that is done. Firstly, courtesy. Company C, you can see goes to way down to the left of the graph, which suggests it is not doing well with courtesy. Company B, D, is doing, oh yeah, it's courtesy. And then A, B and E have crossed across the halfway point and are heading more towards high performance. Then in low prices, they all tend to be clustered up, so the prices are pretty close. Now that would be like petrol stations. The prices are actually pretty close. Then they start to spread out with so-called high tech and so on. Now the easiest way is probably to have a look at one across here. So you can read that for more explanation. But if you come across to the perception mapping 5 attributes, now whoever did this one for fuel retailers was arguing that the main attributes as people saw them would be low prices for petrol, because petrols. Courtesy was quite important for some people. Speed was quite important. Access. Sometimes people decide on which side of the road, of course, it's on, depending on how they're going home from work or coming to work. Others say it needs to be nice and easy to get it off the road. Some Bowsers aren't. And high tech is really all to do with the petrol pumps, the FPOS and everything that goes with that.
So the speed, is that the speed of the service?
Yes, from woe to go.
Yeah.
You know, if you go into a petrol tank, a petrol bar's only got 4 pumps and there's 4 cars there, it's a bit of a pain. If you go into one that's got umpteen pumps, you think you're going to get faster service, but it's probably a queue inside waiting to pay. All of those things. So just have a little bit of a think about that. So let's argue, this is slightly dated, isn't it? There's BP, so that's the one down towards the end of
Green
Tainui
one.
Street here, the green one. Caltex is now challenged, but that was there. Mobil's the one down on the way to Hokitika, down by the supermarket, if you will. And it becomes an interesting question how that, in terms of access, is regarded. It's close to the supermarket, but that intersection's a bit messy if you're going to go in there from the supermarket. And I see up in Blenheim, I think it is, Pack and Save, they've got a petrol Bowser basically right off the car park, and you'll see more
The
of that,
Pack
I'm
and
sure.
Save Blenheim Road.
Yes,
Yes,
they do
too.
too, yes.
All of the hypermarkets in France have them.
Yes,
I
yes.
had it, I
Big
mean,
time.
20 years ago when I was travelling there. Amazing.
And the last one, Shell, which is now Z. So, using those BP, CA, MO, SH, how do you see, string those out across how you see them in terms of their price? So in that lowish price area, what would you be putting? It supposes that you take
I
notice
don't
of
really
it.
know the gramophone.
What do you mean by low prices?
Because you find 6 cents dearer down there.
Any rate,
Yeah.
what we mean by low prices is the lower end, you know, assuming some outfits tend to be a wee bit higher and some will tend to be a bit lower.
In
How
my
are you
opinion,
gonna put-
BP and Mobil are higher here.
Okay,
It's my
so in your
experience,
opinion,
so-
then you could probably put, say, Mobil just to the right of the black arrow line at the top there. And you could probably put BP a bit further to the right.
So you're saying putting it up on the high performance side?
Well,
So,
it means they've got, oh, sorry, yeah, we could
Yeah,
get
you
to
put
it.
it
You
on
are
the left,
absolutely
wouldn't
right. I've got it the wrong way round. You would have BP would be to the left,
yeah.
Yeah.
and your Mobil would be to the left.
But then Caltex and
Then
Shell, I
Caltex
find
and then
is,
Shell
they,
over
Shell
there.
and Caltex are
Much the
challenged
same,
so
aren't
much of a muchness, really.
they? And then you could do the same thing with courtesy. So who would you argue has a lower performance with courtesy, do you think, maybe? It means you've been to them all.
I've never, oh yeah, I've never.
So you put Mobil to the left. And who would be the best with courtesy?
I've had crap service at all of them.
Well, I was saying to all of them. I think
It's not very
I
often someone comes out and offers film.
Shell's probably, out of a lot of them, is probably the better in regards to.
Yeah, because at least they come out.
My wife's very impressed with Challenge down here. Somebody must have come out and said, can I do this or can I do that? Because she-
I think Challenge might do that sort of between 12
They do.
and 3.
Oh, they do it
Something
when
like
they're
that.
not
Does
serving
it?
anybody. It's very random, I think.
Yeah.
I must say, I actually go there,
Mm.
even though we've got BP gift card for business, but
So for access, speed, I don't know. I reckon I stand waiting. I've been to most of them. I reckon you tend to stand waiting longer in this one over here. I don't know why.
Is it Z?
Yeah.
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 I think
I've been to
Challenge,
that
Challenge is probably quickest because it's everyone there.
You wait a bit in Mobile till you can do.
And so, as you can see, you can do this, and what they tell you, if you read that article just before there, when you plot them all out, you sometimes can see gaps where you could be too.
Oh,
You
yeah.
plot the ones that are there out, and sometimes you see gaps. So, we'll just, let's just ask ourselves about access. There's a bit of variation in access, isn't there? The three down this road are pretty straight, the two down this road are pretty straightforward, you drive.
That
in,
one's
but
terrible.
That one is appalling,
Yeah, because of that.
and the mobile one's potentially bad because the traffic's all milling around.
That one's okay if you're going
Yeah.
that on that,
Yes.
but it's
Why
terrible if
wouldn't
you're
you
going
put
the
that
other way.
program and put that roundabout in?
Now, the thing I've never been able to understand, and I've asked quite a lot of people because I've been curious about it, and now I think I know the answer. See if you know the answer. Why is it that BP is usually 2 or 3 cents a litre dearer, but people still go there in great numbers?
Is it because of the AA?
It's
Card?
because of the AA card. Yeah, it took me a long time to get my head around that.
Yeah.
You just were swiping it, you get 6 cents off of tax and
Yeah,
bounty, the same as anyone
That's
else.
right, and all of that. The only thing
I've had
I...
30 cents, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I got 20
Quite a
cents
lot.
off for buying tyres.
You've just got to
It just cost me
Yeah.
$400.
We've
What
only
do
just
they-
joined up to that not long ago.
What irritates me does, if you go to the supermarket and get a 20 cent thing out of the till, when you go down and have a look, BP have shoved their prices up. They know that's coming out, and sometimes there's a 4 cent
They
difference.
compensate for it. They do.
Yeah, but they still ratmags, you know, by putting their prices up just when the supermarket 20 cents comes out. So.
Problem is you gotta spend like over $200 to get that discount.
There,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
And I,
that's not hard. What's
That's
the
not
problem?
hard for a family in Korea.
No.
Yeah, no, yeah.
yeah, well, we don't have kids, thankfully.
Now,
I'm sure I don't.
talking about this sort of positioning thing is raising, of course, the question of, like it says in your handout, why do I have that go backwards? Very good question, there it goes. Positioning essentially involves competitive advantage. So the perceptual mapping was sort of one approach to that. But it's probably reasonably important that we have another look at a PowerPoint set you've already had earlier on. And I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I will run some of the slides. It's all about achieving competitive advantage. Because in this day and age, it's remarkably hard to achieve competitive advantage, especially when you're in a business that sells similar products. So when you start to think about it, and I know we talked a bit about this, but how really do you get a competitive advantage from about 5 retailers, I think it is, in Greymouth that sell appliances and TVs and all that? The appliances and TVs are all much the same, aren't they? Really.
The service.
It can be the service.
It's not particularly great in the either.
No, and the banks are another one where you're getting much the same, right? Really. And they try and differentiate with service, but they don't do it particularly well. I always recall that ANZ used to have ANZ, the Yes Bank. I suppose that was supposed to suggest you could go and borrow easily off them, but I don't think you could.
I guess it's how you show yourself in the media.
Yeah.
Maybe. You need to have a good image, there's popularity, you've got to be,
Yeah, that can be it.
Word
And
of
if
mouth.
you can get that sustained. So what do you need to get a good image and get popularity? How do you make Noel Leavings popular?
When customer service comes down,
Customer
a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's the people, it's the
Well,
people.
Because word of mouth is your best advertising. So if people get good service, they'll tell everybody.
Yeah,
they've actually improved, speaking
They
of
have
Noel
improved, but yeah.
Because, I mean, a year ago Noel Leeming was crap, service that you got was rubbish, now you go in and you get pants on, now it was like,
They've got better
Yeah.
since the Warehouse Group bought them.
mm.
yes.
That would be right, yeah.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
Mm.
That's
So-
even got worse.
But,
They're
yeah,
ridiculous.
they have got worse.
They're sort of,
Yeah.
roughly speaking, in trouble really,
Yeah,
it's the
Australia.
Australian setup, So typically, you can get a competitive advantage if you can sell stuff at a lower cost or lower price. So you therefore have a cost advantage. So a firm that can make or buy things more cheaply can achieve a cost and price advantage. But often that isn't enough. And the other way of doing it, or the other general way, is to deliver benefits that exceed those of competing products. So that's the big challenge. So one way of looking at this in the sort of marketing theory is to look at competitive advantage based on the firm's resources and capabilities. The resource-based view, arguing that if the firm's resources and capabilities are better than those of the competition, then they will have a potential competitive advantage. Now you've all been in your previous handouts. So a firm's ability to use its resources effectively is one part of capabilities. A firm's competency is an advantage. It's interesting when you buy services, say a plumber or an electrician, is an interesting mix. Some people will say to the electrician or the plumber, how much an hour do you charge? Farmers are notorious for doing that. How much an hour do you charge? And they'll take the cheapest charge per hour. What they really should say is, how much to do that job? Because there is a difference. If a person that
Do the job
charges a
properly.
fairly low price an hour might take ages to do it, and the generally end up paying more. A core competency is something the firm does particularly well. So the business of service provision is something that probably deserves quite a lot of attention. If people are very good at something, they actually can end up with a couple of competitive advantages. They can end up with being a little bit overall cheaper, and they can end up with the customer being very satisfied because they knew exactly what they were doing. And they did it quickly and obviously competently. I worked for a firm that imported some pretty expensive stuff for electroplating things, polishing inside these copper saucepans, and the machine broke down. And of course we didn't know anything about it, so we got in a couple of people that said they could fix the machines, and in those days they were charging about $35, something like that an hour to do that sort of work. And two of them came in and two of them couldn't do the job. Somebody said, oh, try Bill Smith in Papanui Road. So I rang up Bill Smith in Papanui Road, and he said, yeah, I can do that. And he said, you better make sure you're happy with me charging you $75 an hour. So it was more than twice what the others had paid. I said, wow, that's pretty steep. And he said, yeah, but remember this, I will fix it. They haven't fixed it. And so he had a particular capability. He could fix those things. Distinctive competence, something competitively valuable capability that a company performs better than its rivals. Those are fairly hard to develop, of course. But there is another argument that says the resources can be imported if you have some that others don't have. For example, patents and trademarks. You don't see so much of it now, but at one time, Fisher and Paykel washing machines and whatnot would only be sold by certain people, you know, official Fisher and Paykel sales outlets. So they had an advantage really in terms of the trademark. They had Fisher and Paykel, and everybody else followed along with Westinghouse and Simpsons and God knows what else. But of course that's all gone now, that sort of thing's pretty much illegal. Superior know-how, that's my guy in Papanui Road who could fix those automatic machines. Nobody else could. Strong existing customer base. Now, there's always a warning signal goes out when you start talking about that sort of thing. If you have a strong existing customer base, you have to keep working at it to keep it strong, so that they look. If you slack off a bit because things are going pretty well and you feel maybe you don't have to worry too much, before very long, the customer base will have slipped off. When does another customer base change? Another situation where a customer base will change.
A new business moves
A
into
new
town?
business, a change of ownership. And this is one of the traps people fall into, but they pay a bit much for an existing business because they're pretty impressed with the customer base, and all of a sudden they wonder why the customers are disappearing, and it's because poor old John Smith that used to own the business has disappeared and they feel a bit lost.
Do they
Some-
still value goodwill? They used to.
Yeah, they like to think they have the goodwill, and in some ways they have it. Nobody will pay anything
No.
for goodwill.
No, I wouldn't.
Not
It's
bad.
kind of gone now. Good one, isn't it?
Well, it's really high risk territory paying goodwill. You could go down and you could buy a clothing shop or a appliance retailer or a coffee bar and think, well, that's got a pretty good customer base, and all of a sudden somebody opens up next door to you, or the warehouse comes to town, or something horrendously difficult like that. So reputation and a strong brand, they're pretty obvious ones. So if firms can prove they've got all of those, they're doing pretty well. The other argument that's starting to come through much more strongly now is the real thing is getting the people bit right in how you go about your business and how you are seen by the customers. There's I'm not going to name them, but there's at least 3 shops I can think of in town that are actually quite good shops. When you go in, sometimes on a Saturday morning, although that doesn't go much, when you go in, the people behind the counter, no greeting, they're very and, you know, hi, what do you want? Or sort of, not quite what do you want, but you know what I mean. After a while they warm up and you realise they're quite nice people. Why in the hell did they start out that way? It's incredible. I can't get over it. People don't-
Because they're underemployed.
Oh, I don't know. No.
There's a range
So
of
the-
reasons, but
So
Some
I
people
think
just
that's one of the reasons.
Some people just seem to need to warm up, you know, just in the first couple of minutes. I don't know.
it's hard to get good bubbly stuff,
It is.
weirdly.
Yeah.
It is.
It actually is.
And that's what you want, isn't
Yeah.
it? Big time.
Yeah, we just found one that's hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Worth their weight in gold too.
Yeah.
If you know, yeah. So, this is the whole sort of argument that goes with this. You can say that technologies and products and services can all be copied. You can easily be in a situation where you really haven't got anything new. Might have for a little while, but won't be long before you got it down the road. But the one thing you cannot match easily is if you can achieve this highly committed, motivated people who care and show they care. Now, it's just like Rebecca would say, you know, smiley people, bubbly people that don't sort of try and hard sell you but keep at you a bit and make sure that you're seeing the right thing,
Yeah.
know the products and all
So
of
they're
that.
very knowledgeable as well.
Yes, they do, don't they? We used to supply bike shops, you know, left, right and centre, and every now and then I'd go and call on the bike shops. They used to drive me bananas because they didn't sell. somebody come in and say, no, I want one of those cheap 10-speeds. And I said, do you now? Because the owner of the bike shop had disappeared somewhere. I said, what do you want to use it for? This is in Christchurch. He said, well, I'm going to try biking out to Lincoln and back. Yeah, that's a fair old step. That's about 14 miles. I said, yeah, the last thing you want is the cheap 10-speed for that. Yeah, that would be a silly thing.
Yeah.
But this dope of a bike dealer was going to just sell him a cheap 10-speed because that's what he asked for, Tracy.
That's fit for people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. He'll be back in a couple of months.
And
Yeah,
upselling.
that's the first thing.
And also
Yeah.
upselling.
Upselling. I used to watch a guy at the bike days at Smith City Market in Christchurch. He's a thoroughly nice person. I actually quite like him. He was as sharp as a tack. He would sit selling a bike, you see, and he would eventually arrive, and here was the bike the person was going to buy, and he'd say, what colour do you want? Blah, 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 blah. Here they were, just about to go. And then he'd say, yeah, get pretty close to winter. You probably might want to think about a light for this thing. That would only add $2 to your hire purchase payment. And he'd keep on going like that. And by the time he got to the end of that process, he'd added about $20 to forbear his hire purchase payment. Upselling. And so people that have knowledge, like, just if I may use your organisation, people you would hope they would build up some good product knowledge so that they can go around and be confident that they were covering the range or upselling a bit when they could and all the rest.
Yeah.
And they would have to have that, the knowledge and the skill base, and once that's there, that's actually quite hard to replace if they walk out.
It is.
I recall my daughter being a bit naughty. She worked at a clothing outlet in Christchurch in that South City Mall, I think it's called down there. And every now and then, of course, the staff were told, oh, we'll give you a bit more bonus if you sell those ones. And so her approach was, when a fellow came in, you know, wanting to buy a present for his girlfriend or his wife, and would say to Kirsty, what do you think would go well? Well, guess which product she'll she been to? And the poor beggars walked out with one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all the fashion. She'll love that, which was a bit naughty. So just a reminder that if we're talking about a competitive advantage, these are the things that are needed. Difficult to mimic. This is where good people are important. Quite difficult to mimic. Unique. Can be important. Sustainable, will last. It's not something that a competitor is going to come along and immediately, oh, that's what they're doing, that's what I'll do. Superior to the competition and applicable to multiple situations. And then they talk about some of the company characteristics that could give you a sustainable competitive advantage. Pretty much a repeat of what we were saying above there. Now, there's one more thing to put in there, is this handout, which is an additional handout, which I shall give you. So we can do that. Some more. The reality is that we can talk about quite a lot of these fairly highfalutin things in competitive advantage, but in the end, people do tend to buy a bit on the price-value combination. So Rebecca won't be selling the cheapest clothes in Hokitika, probably. But the price-value is probably right, as far as I don't know much about it, but it's pretty right as far as I can see.
That's what she's aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trick.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what it's all
quality,
about.
yeah, we definitely buy quality
Yeah,
brands.
and it's recognising that people's expectations vary a bit. So if there's a reasonably unique brand that looks expensive and it's come from some exotic place, you're going to get a bit more for it, even if they didn't cost you as much. So this is the notion of competitive advantage with value-based pricing. So the first one is that one approach is to accept that the price is going to need to be much the same as competitors because the product is much the same. Now, I'm reasonably sure in my mind that the price of coffees around town is much the same. I know it's quite hard to measure because the size of the cups varies a bit and things like that. So you're probably going to need to be much the same as the competition. There's sort of a going rate for cups of coffee. Interestingly enough, it's much the same if you compare New Zealand and London too at the moment. It's sort of a going rate. Tied up a little bit with the fact that coffee is commodity price. That's costing people much the same for their coffee. There's not a hell of a difference between them. So that's where you go for the competition. Now, when you do this, if the price has got to be much the same, then you've got two choices. The first is that you can provide some obvious other advantage, non-price competition. People can come into that, brands can come into that, etc. And the other thing, which retailers typically find it fairly hard to do, but manufacturers don't always, and that is to lower your buy-in price. Hold the selling price, but lower your buy-in price. I reckon that's worth, in any firm, is worth putting a lot of brain power into, because if you are in the business of having to buy something in order to sell or make or buy or provide a service, it is a lot quicker and more efficient to increase your profit by reducing your costs if you can. Because to increase your sales, you've got to put a lot of money into advertising and marketing and drama, whereas to reduce your buy-in, that doesn't really apply. If you can reduce your buy-in in some way, then you are going to increase your profit and can still hold your price. Sometimes easier said than done. Pretty hard to, you can chivvy around with things like power prices a bit, and if you're buying a lot of, like your suppliers.
They give us a prompt payment discount?
Yeah.
So the ones that do always get paid first?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. It's 3 or 4 that do that.
And I often think it's worth in a firm, almost like practicing marketing in reverse. Make sure you're nice to the suppliers, because when something comes up and they like you, they might offer it to you before the grumpy person that rings up saying, my blooming order's late again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have a rapport with your sales reps,
Yes,
they'll look after you.
yes,
Yeah.
they will.
Yeah.
And people forget that. Sometimes people are very dour about dealing with their suppliers. They think they're going to be ripped off and they're not very pleasant to them. So that's the situation where the price may be much the same as competitors. Another possible approach is to establish a low price compared with competition to capture a large number of customers in the market. Now, I think that's full of fish-hooks, because if you start, there's two things that happen if you start doing that. People will see you as a low-value supplier, because you're sort of going for a greater market when you do that, and the service may not be that great, and it's an advantage that you don't ultimately get for very long. You think, if I drop a cup of coffee to $2, I'll get a lot more customers. Well, you sort of might, but before very long all the other coffee shops will bring it down to $2 and you won't gain anything. You'll all lose money. It's a futile exercise, that is. Even the warehouse appears to have noticed that. They seem to now want to show that they've lifted their act a bit, and they're starting to talk about they've now got brands, because it's a little bit easier to bring in brands now. And what was another outfit that, we haven't got them over here now, but the farmers struggled for ages to get themselves a fit. They were sort of down low price, but nobody saw them as low price, so they gave that up quickly and shifted up the market a bit. The worst place is in the middle. In my little series of Posty Plus is close to that. It's neither one thing nor another. Anyway,
I'm in trouble too, aren't they?
yeah. It wasn't that long ago that they were in Westport and they had a clothing Delarkins and they had Marcus and they had a clothing shop on the corner in Reefton and they had quite good stocks at one time. Then there's the uniqueness, the third one, the uniqueness and the mystique. Now the whole big theory of this is, if you can get people gripped on the idea of uniqueness or mystique or image or brand image and all of the rest, then you're not price sensitive. You can probably put the price up. Now one of the greatest surprises I've ever got in pricing, I thought I was all right on this sort of thing, really. But I wasn't on one occasion. Not long after I came here, this Polytechnic had free fees.
It ended in, the last year was 2009, 2010 was when they put the fees in place. I got in on the last year.
So when we were talking about that here, there was a lot of discussion about what would happen. And I said, we'd probably be better to just not make the jump too sudden. So instead of going up to 400 or whatever it was, just go up to 200 and then do another bite next year. Well, the powers that be or the government, I'm not sure who it was at the time, said, no, you've got to take the hit at the start, the whole thing. And I said, okay, so we were sitting around here saying, okay, well, I suppose we can do that, but the enrolments will drop. And that seemed to me to be pretty logical. The surprising thing was the enrolments went up, and I still can't understand why.
No.
I have a theory on that,
Do you? I'd be interested to know it.
because my first year of Polytech here was
Yep.
97.
Right. Goodness me. Yes.
I know.
Okay.
But I do feel old just saying it.
Yeah.
And of course there was fees
Mm.
back then,
Yes.
and I lived in the hostel which had a lot of the outdoor rec guys
Yeah.
lived there.
Mm-hmm.
They worked incredibly hard, partied just
Incredibly
as hard
hard.
as well, but they worked hard and they were extremely committed to what they were doing.
Mm.
And same with everyone else in the other courses. And when, and employers in particular, so, right, they, to do this, they've racked up the student loan, they're committed to it, they're going to do it, and a fairly high pass rate then too. And then when the free fees came in, it became more of a stopgap, as in, they won't give me the benefits, I'll go to Polytech because it ain't going to cost me anything. And the value of the course dropped because there's people doing it as a stopgap. They weren't as committed, they didn't pass.
So you have a point, yeah, because I did a course in 2009 and there was quite a few people in the class. They were there to get wins off their back.
Yes, you see, you are
It's-
right. There are funny
so you-
motivations,
yeah.
aren't there, sometimes? But it's an interesting thing. Now, the outdoor rec, we're a wee bit limited in how much we can do this, but I know a reasonable amount about our outdoor rec courses, and I know that we could probably charge half as much again, and then still come.
Yeah,
Because it's built a reputation
it
as well.
has built that
The
reputation.
reputation, it's a gung-ho sort of thing. There's a fair few rich daddies behind people that come to these outdoor rec courses, and
So
it's
there's a lot of the ones that I was at Polytech with now that are in the industry, using those qualifications that they got,
yeah.
and are doing very well out of it. There seems to be a bit of a gap, which tends to coincide with particularly the earlier years
Yeah.
of free fees,
Yes.
where it really was just a stopgap. And that people, and looking at going, yeah, they were only there because, you know, and
Well,
they
when
don't
I-
put
yeah.
the effort into it as much as when you,
Pay-
No, they don't.
When
When,
you've got
when
to
I
pay
first came here and saw the free fees, I thought they're mad, going to
Mm.
free fees. Reduce them if you must, but not free fees. Because it does, that you're right, it affected the people's attitude to the course.
I think it affected people, employers' attitudes towards them as well.
The other thing about that outdoor, Ed, or at the recline is that we've got the prime location, you know, that everything is here, so when you have got people coming from away, like you say, from rich background and things, it's nothing to them, they should be charging a bit more, because it's cheaper to live here as well,
It's quite interesting.
the cost of
really,
living
yeah.
is cheaper here.
There's very few locals do the course here.
Mm.
There's very few locals do the course at Aoraki, which is fairly similar. And they mainly come from Auckland and
Yeah.
places like that.
And how cheap it is for them to be living here in comparison, so, you know, why aren't they putting the fee up?
Now, the next dilemma is how much would people pay
Mm.
to do a degree that took about 3/4 of a year on top of a diploma in business, because that's starting to get, you know, a sort of a qualification worth having. Of course, they don't come cheap, but it'll be a little dilemma for us, won't it?
Don't raise the cost,
As
please.
long as our bosses pay, we're fine.
Well, no one's paying mine, so.
No,
you
me
can-
neither, I
These papers are $500 a piece,
My boss
I haven't
isn't
got
paying.
any choice but to pass them.
Oh, Derry, we don't, yeah, if we don't pass, we have to pay, so.
Well,
We've
I
got
pay
the-
anyway, whether I pass or not, so. Keep them at $500, please.
New Zealand.
We're just not doing that to recline.
New Zealand employers are notoriously bad at not paying fees for people. It's a bit disappointing in a way. Some of
I
them
don't
take
think
quite a
we're worth the
narrow.
investment.
No, I think what happens is
I
that.
think we're going to up and
That
leave.
they're going to,
Yeah.
I had quite a lot of my students say to me that their boss says, the trouble is if I pay you to get a diploma or whatever, you'll up and leave. It's pretty narrow-minded
But
attitude.
I don't think anything wrong with putting in contract saying, you know, if you do this value of coursework,
Mm.
we would expect you to stay for a minimum 1 year.
Yeah,
after completion.
I
agree.
Minimum
Yeah, that's,
2 years after completion.
That would be reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite reasonable. So, I don't know why they don't just do that.
Right, so that's
Because
the
they make
database
a
pricing.
unit from it.
Now, the last thing is, since I take so many courses, I'm not entirely quite sure in my mind. You have had the assessment given out to you that talks about fire behaviour and.
Yeah. I haven't started yet
Should
either.
start.
I was hoping to give us another few weeks.
Is that this one that's due on, well, it says Monday. Is that that? Is that
Says,
it?
says,
May the
if you've
fifth.
got that, just make sure you've got it.
Yeah.
Now, the disruption, I cause one disruption and the wind and whatnot's probably messed things up. I'm quite happy to accept at least another week on that. We're actually doing quite well on this course. There's one reasonable biggie to come, but
Is there only one more after this?
well, there's one and a bit. I'm saying one and a bit because of a sort of a basic little test, open book test. I think it takes about, I don't know, 40 minutes or an hour in class, but it's dead easy. It's not much. So I'm pretty relaxed about at least another week for that. Does anybody have any obvious questions about it yet, since you haven't looked at it?
I got to question D today.
I did D today. I did A. And C.
I got A, B, C and D.
You picked all the easy ones.
I did. I tried to do B and I went, oh, I can't think straight.
Question 2, like, when I saw it, I thought, oh yay, 2 pages, it's not much, and I read the questions on page 2. So, do you just want a few paragraphs on that, or is it?
Yeah,
It's
2B,
very
I'm pretty
heavy
serious
question.
about those profiles. They need to be profiles. And use that BMW one as an example, the sort of thing we.
Which one is that? The B, you say?
Yeah, the 12 mark one.
So,
Yeah, that scares me.
Right.
12.
Yeah.
obviously it's a
Yes,
service-based
intimidating.
business,
Hey, yes,
so we could, for 2 potential target markets,
Yes.
we could put like warranty customers.
yes,
because they don't have the full
Yeah.
choice. They've got to come
But
to us
you
to
need to
warranty.
describe them fairly fully. I mean, a profile, a target market is
It's like
warranty
list.
customers, but
Yeah.
you need to go down the list, you know. Are you targeting older ones or an age range, you know, 25 to 55? Or are you targeting car fleet? Well, you're in the big machine basis. really.
Like corporate.
Certainly what
Fleets.
is it, warranty?
And you would probably be able to produce a couple of target market profiles, wouldn't you, with 3 or 4 different characteristics?
Mm.
The lease companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I can use my business for that.
Yes, you
Yeah.
should.
Yeah, yeah.
Get some mileage out of it, you know, so that you can
That's awesome.
get something out of it. Yeah, no,
That's why I
no,
did this one.
no, you should. And the final assessment will be quite good just to do for your business too.
Cool.
So that's good,
That's
that
fine,
you
yeah.
should get something out of it, yeah. Okay. So, next week, I'll start the wind up to the third reasonably significant assessment that's coming up, but we can sort of work through that a bit when we started, you know, if you try and keep up a little bit as you go, you'll almost end up having finished it by the time we get to the end. It won't suit all of you, but we'd accept a group one for you two if you like, if you wanted to do it for the same organisation. It might be a bad idea. Hey?
For the next assessment.
Yes. Rebecca won't want to do that, because we really want to concentrate on your own business, and
Yeah.
so we'll change.
Based on, my work would be considered a service business then? My team you get?
Definitely.
Yeah.
All retailers are service
Retail,
businesses.
okay,
Yeah.
so.
Yep, definitely.
We got a huge range
The
of
huge
customers.
amount of businesses really are service
Yeah.
businesses.
We've got DIYs, we've got tradies, we've got.
Yeah, but they're all a service, like, the only things that
Some
really
services.
aren't services are manufacturers. Westland Milk Company's probably look more a manufacturer than a service business.
Mm.
The tourism's all a service business. Digging coal out's mining, it's not really a service business.
That's industrial.
Mm. That's right. Alrighty. See you next week.
Yeah.